Okay, so this is a shirt that I've been working on and I hadn't had a chance to finish it. So I'm going to use this one to kind of help you put them in perspective of how to cut different colors on the same mat at the same time, or one after the other, basically. But everything would be loaded on your mat together. So I just right clicked, ungrouped. I am missing, for whatever reason, the letters IN in my son's design. I cut everything out, and for whatever reason, the last two letters, I didn't cut them. So I'm going to cut those two. And as in my previous video, I always move them so that I save the amount of vinyl that I'm going to use. The other thing was the wings. I cut them, and then for whatever reason, I ended up cutting it out. I have this tendency of cutting out, like, let me show you. So I have this piece right on the vinyl, and I tend to cut around it with scissors instead of I could just make an offset. And I ended up cutting with the scissors the little piece of the wing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that as well. I noticed that I'm just moving it to a place on my mat that I'm going to use for those parts. And the last thing that I have was the eyes, and I already had them grouped, so yeah, I'm going to put them on this side. So here's what happens. You put your vinyl, your colors that you're going to cut. I'm going to center this one. You put the vinyl pieces where you want them to cut. So what I do is I use this grid, and when you look at the mat has the exact same grid. It's 16 squares per inch. So here I would need to make sure that my blue is in this corner, my red is in the center, and my black is on my right side on my mat. However, you need to keep track of where and how big your design is. Okay, so for example, the wings right here are about 3 by 3. The face is about 1.5, a little over, by a little less than an inch. And then my last two letters are less than an inch. So I would need those pieces to be right in those quadrants when I'm going to cut. Okay, so this is what I did. I put my blue for my two letters on the corner. The white paper is actually red. It's red on the other side. That's my shiny side, is down. And then I have the small piece of black for the faces. Now when you load, notice that you have this little line right here. You want that mat to be right against the line. And on this side, we need to make sure that the bar is locked. It's always up to be locked. And this little lock here needs to lock in the groove. So it won't actually lock unless you lock it into that groove. So let me get that in there. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down real quick because I will start to it's kind of hard for me to load the mat, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to line it up here right along this gray edge. Okay, and it's supposed to go under that roller, but I need to make sure that it's locked, so I'm going to raise it. This is already locked in. Give me a second. So all I'm doing is I'm just putting it right against the roller so that when I press the up button on my machine, it's going to pull it in. So now it's locked, okay? My blade needs to be locked as well, okay? So when you insert your blade, you need to push it down and pull up on the tab. Okay, and then these little grooves have to go lock in. If it doesn't lock in, then it's not going to lock. It'll be popping out when you're trying to cut, okay? So now that it's loaded, I can go back to my computer and adjust my settings to the correct cuts. Okay, so now that I have the areas that I want, when I go to the send panel, what I did was I changed the color to the areas that I want to cut. So now I don't want the blue to cut. I only want those top areas. So if I zoom in, you should be able to see that light purple going all the way around. And then I make sure that my material is correct, auto is selected, auto blade is selected, and then I choose my cut. Now, if you have not practiced getting the correct cut on your material, I always suggest, you know, playing with the settings, raising the depth, maybe by 1. If it cuts through your entire sheet, like all the way through the plastic and the vinyl, then you go back down 1 on the depth and you start raising the force. Okay, so mine is set, I already have it set to heat transfer smooth, but since I've been using my blade for a little bit and I had used it on cardstock will dull my blade. So I'm gonna go ahead and move it up to 12. And I have it going on 2 passes. That means going to cut it twice. And I have my overcut on. This is very, very helpful. You get a real clean cut when you have the overcut on. So I usually have it on all the time because it's very helpful. So now that I have everything and my machine says ready, I can click send. Now sometimes you'll see that it'll say reconnecting or not connected. Then what you do is you need to click on the printer at the bottom, which is actually the Cameo. And it'll tell you, like, this is the device. Sometimes for some reason it'll give you 2. As soon as I got my machine, I figured out which one was the actual Cameo and the other one I just deleted it. And so now whenever I log into the software, it only shows 1. So now that it's ready, I can press send. All right, so right here it's cutting the 2 letters that I was missing. Now it's going to cut my red, which was the wings. Now I put some painter's tape on to hold it down since my mat's not so sticky anymore. I have a new one, but I don't want to use it. Now it's going to cut the face. And this digital file, I got it from lovesvg.com. All right, so here you can see where I have my 2 letters. You can kind of tell the I and the N that was missing. I've got my wings. I don't think you can really see them because it's white. And then the little face as well. Kind of see it a little bit there. So then I just weed out the excess areas. Now since my letters have a small space and my black has a small space, it's really easy to weed. The wings I would have to cut around, and this time I'm going to make sure that I do not cut part of it out.